sorry about that. I don't know what happened with my connection. It seems like my internet's been a little bit slow, so forgive me for not checking that out first. So welcome back. We are talking about bedroom basics here and just trying to figure out the difference between low drive and high drive and how to find out the frequency that's going to work best in your relationship. So with you, in each relationship, you will notice that there's always going to be one person with higher drive and one person with lower drive. And as is most common, the person with higher drive often is the man because men have high testosterone compared to women as it's their main hormone. On the other hand, women, because they have some testosterone, but it's not their main hormone, they tend to be lower in drive. Now, sometimes this can change during the courting period of your relationship, where, hi again, everyone, where in the beginning of your relationship, you will have different hormones and chemicals that flood your brain, which can change how you experience drive in the relationship. And over time, when those chemicals fade out of your brain, things are different. And all of a sudden, the person who started out with a baseline low drive goes back to that baseline of lower drive. And this can be really confusing to a couple, especially when they're newer married couples, because they don't know what happened to the person who had drive and now doesn't have drive. And so sometimes they ask questions, what's wrong with me, or what's wrong with you? What are we doing wrong? Did something change? And they don't really understand what's going on. So it makes it really hard for them to know what to do and how to manage that. So kind of back to the board here, where we have the high drive person dreams about sex, thinks about it, craves it, gets grumpy without it. Person with low drive doesn't really dream about it, or at least not very often. They hardly think about it during the day. And if they don't get it, it doesn't matter so much. You know, they kind of carry on day to day. It doesn't really change their mood or how they feel or things like that. It just, you know, they can sort of take or leave it. And if they have it, it's great. And if they don't, it's fine. Now, so back to the frequency piece, where there's a minimum frequency that you should have at least once a week in your relationship. You should have sex or a sexual encounter of intimacy in your relationship at least once a week. And the reason for this frequency is so that the person with the high drive can at least count on having their needs met at least once a week. So they have some kind of regularity that they can, you know, look forward to and be excited for, and know that that's something that they can count on. And as weird as this might sound, when you get married, there's a type of contract that's sort of an unwritten contract that you are going to be sexually available to each other and only each other and nobody else. So if the person with low drive is consistently saying, no, thank you, not tonight, I'm not in the mood, I don't want to, over and over and over, what is their high drive partner supposed to do? And that's where the minimum frequency of at least once a week, I really believe, should be upheld. Now, a more healthy frequency is 3 times a week. And I know some people think that that is ridiculously too much, out of this world, no way, no how, that's not going to happen. And I just ask you to consider, you know, what's stopping you from having a healthier frequency with your partner. And this can be a real challenge when you're busy and maybe you're both working, or you're both working and you have a big family and you hardly see each other and you seem to always be crossing paths and things are going well or not going well. And, you know, there's ups and downs. And so it can make it really challenging to get that frequency in and to spend that time with each other. And like I said, for the person with that high drive, it's really, really important to them to have that opportunity to be close with their partner. And the other thing that's really important, I'm just going to erase this and put on something else here, is chemicals. Why are chemicals important? Let's talk about that for a sec. So our brain is wired with chemicals. And when different things happen, we have different chemicals that happen. And so when we are able to be sexually close with our partner, we have a flood of different chemicals that are released. But the most important one that I want to talk about is oxytocin. Oxytocin is so important. It's known as the bonding hormone or bonding chemical. Now, bonding meaning emotional bonding. So if you think back when babies are born, they are able to feel bonded to their mothers through the hormone oxytocin. It also happens when they're nursing, that both mom and baby get a huge surge of oxytocin. Now, oxytocin helps people feel loved and connected, and they want to stay close contact. And it makes them feel relaxed and happy and sometimes sleepy. So this is why often when babies are nursing that they get really sleepy, and sometimes even mom gets really sleepy when there's a really huge surge of oxytocin. So that same chemical, that bonding chemical, also is present after climax in your sexual relations. And so that's why there's sort of the joke that men get really sleepy after they climax. They just want to go to sleep, and because they have this huge surge of oxytocin. And the reason this is so important is because when men have this, they feel loved, connected, they want to stay in close contact, they feel relaxed, they feel happy, and they can have a good sleep. And why wouldn't we want that, right? So these things also apply to women or the lower drive partner in the relationship, that we also feel loved, connected, want to stay in close contact, feel more relaxed, feel happier, and have a better sleep. So even when you don't feel like you're really in the mood or you're not sure if you want to, there's a lot of benefits to being more sexually active with your partner. And like I said, this is something that comes up over and over in relationship therapy, that people's drive just don't match up. So now that we talked about chemicals, let's talk about what to do or how to deal with differences in drive. Okay, so I'll erase this. So one of the things that can be done when you have a low drive and a high drive person is you need to start by communicating. So communication is honestly the number one thing that even sex therapists mention is super important in a relationship, is communication. So can't stress that enough, right? Communication is number one. So in order for you to be communicating, you need to be asking questions and be willing to hear what the answers are from your partner. So one of the questions that's really important, really the first thing to ask is, how often do you need or want to have sex? So ask. Now, I'm going to separate these, need versus want. Okay, and this is kind of a deal, right? Because when someone has really high drive, they might want it every day, twice a day, whenever they think about it. They want it whenever. But needing it is different, right? And so the need for them may come as maybe a surprise, or maybe they don't know the difference. But a need means, how many days can you go without before you need to do something about it? Meaning, before you get grumpy, before you're in pain, before you start being mean, before you start checking out and withdrawing emotionally, how often do you need to have sex? And that's like the first question you really need to ask in your relationship. So, need. Now, the second part is about initiation. Who will initiate? I hope you can read that, by the way. Move it a little bit closer. Okay, so who will be the one to initiate? And this is a really good question, because often the person who has higher drive, it feels like the burden is on them to always be initiating, right? Do you want to tonight? What about tonight? Hey, what about tomorrow? Since you liked it last night, do you want to again tomorrow? So on, so on, so on. And so it becomes up to them to be the initiator all the time, which makes it really challenging for the relationship, because sometimes they feel like they're being pushy or like they're being rejected all the time,